sure you've seen the memes or the persuasive videos that try to teach us that the ultimate goal of this life is to find out who you are and be that person. To search out your heart, find out who you are on the inside, and let that be your guiding light. To let your heart be your guide. In fact, Ellen DeGeneres said that was the reason for which our soul was put on this earth. She says to find that truth, live that truth, and everything else will come. Sounds about right. Sounds on par with our culture. But the Bible takes a completely different path. In fact, that idea of know thyself throughout history doesn't mean what our culture's come to think it does. It meant know your limitations, or to know your place before God. We need to accept that, I think, instead. But if we were to truly get to know who we are, the Bible teaches we would come to find that we are sinners, that we all stand guilty before God and we've fallen short of his glory. In fact, in Romans chapter 3 and verse 9, it says that when the Lord looked down from heaven, he saw that none of us were righteous, none of us had understanding, none of us were searching him out. In fact, all of us had turned aside. We'd done things our own way. We've all said and done things that we shouldn't do. That's what we get when we let our heart be our guide. In fact, Jeremiah said in Jeremiah 17:9 that the heart is more deceptive than anything else. We could spend our whole life trying to search out the greatest desires of our heart, only to find that when they were conceived, they gave birth to sin, and when sin was conceived, it gave birth to death. And so instead of being true to ourselves, we need to learn to be true to Jesus, which is a path of self-crucifixion. In Luke chapter 9 and verse 23, Jesus said, "If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever desires to lose his life for my sake will save it. For what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and himself is destroyed or lost?" And so that's the idea of losing your life in this life, not losing your life physically. And so our culture is crying out, know thyself, be thyself. But Jesus preaches, deny thyself. In fact, I don't think we believe the deception. If a man was to search out his heart and find out that he's attracted to children or he's naturally geared towards being abusive to women, none of us would say, be true to yourself. In fact, the gospel is not calling us to be thyself. The gospel is calling us to be someone new. Jesus taught in John chapter 3 that we're to be born again. Paul gives us a goal in Galatians 2 verse 20 to no longer live as ourselves, but let Christ live in us. Romans 12 says we're to be a living sacrifice by being transformed by the renewing of our mind and living out God's perfect will in our lives. In fact, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, it says we're to become a new creation, compelled by the gospel to no longer live for ourselves, but to live for him who died for us, who gave himself for us and died in our place.